Good afternoon. We're here at West Lafayette Street and Druid Hill Avenue, here at the historic Highland Garnet Park. As you can see, the Marble Hill community. I'm here with Brother Lou Fields. Let me hold that for you, Lou. And this is the Highland Garnet Park. And I'm gonna let Lou Fields give an introduction and share just what the historic day is today in District 44A. My name is Haki Ami, Central Committee member. We're doing this for our Black History Month celebration. Lou Fields with BBH Tours has done historical tours throughout the city of Baltimore and all throughout Maryland, all over the country. So, good afternoon, Lou.
Hey, thank you, Brother Haki. Great to be here with the Success Scholar on such a historic date, February 12th, 2022. We got a lot of historic dates to remember on this date. And before we get into the talk about why this particular area, Druid Hill Avenue, is so very important. Back in the day, it was called the Gold Coast. So this is where the black doctors, lawyers, chiefs, all the big shots lived up and down this corridor. Even the civil rights people moved up in here. And this is around the turn of the century in the 1900s. After the Germans and the Jews and the whites moved westward, the blacks began to occupy this area known as Old West Baltimore. And the first place they occupied was when the whites began to desert and leave the churches. And then the blacks would move into those churches. As an example of Bethel AME Church, which is 4 Corner Right, 1915, they moved in the church as soon as the whites moved out. But in this general area, it was the heartbeat of Baltimore, the soul of Black America. Historic Pennsylvania Avenue, Druid Hill Avenue again, the Mitchells live here, the civil rights leader. Today, February 12th, 1909 is when the NAACP started. So we're celebrating that historical date. 3 years later, in 1912, the Baltimore branch of the NAACP started on this very street right down here where we are. But today is a very special
Bethel?
day. Yeah, today is a very special day. Probably was at Union Baptist.
Union, okay, right. Thank you for that.
Union and Bethel and Shopsy, all right here, very historic churches. But today being February 12th, we're going to look back in time to February 12th, 1793. When Congress passed its first fugitive slave law, dealing with Africans and African Americans running to freedom. And February 12th, 1793, Congress passed the first fugitive slave law. And moving on from there, February 12th, 1865, the first black person spoke before the United States Congress. And behind me, we're now going to tour the park named in his honor, and his name is Highland Garnet. So let's show him the plaque right here that speaks to when the Mitchell family began to understand the historical impact of living in this block, the 1300 block of Druid Hill Avenue, and then also understanding the history of this park behind me being named after the great abolitionists. So let's go over here and look at the plaque, Haki. Here's the plaque right here. This is West Baltimore, Marble Hill, Lafayette, and Druid Hill Avenue. Tells you about the history of Highland Garnet, born the son of an enslaved African chief. He was not born in Delaware, he was born in Kent County in 1815, but by 1823, his father and family escaped to New York. Henry went to school in New York, became a Presbyterian minister, and an abolitionist. He was a contemporary of Frederick Douglass. They, as two runaways, two former enslaved persons from the state of Maryland, Douglass from Eastern Shore and Henry from Kent County, well, when they meet up as adults, they are not necessarily enemies, but they're on other sides of the political structure. Frederick Douglass preferred a moral persuasion, politics to end slavery, where Mr. Highland Garnet, 1843, Troy, New York, issued the famous speech calling for the violent overthrow of slavery. But going back to the day, February 12, 1865, this brother became the first black man to speak before the United States Congress. This park is named after him in his honor. Look around how beautiful it is. Right across the street is historic Bethel AME Church. Across the street from that is Union Baptist Church. Around the corner is Shop Street Church. Shop Street Memorial United Methodist Church. And folks, what's happening here in the 1930s, 40s, 50s, almost up to the 60s, when blacks were being discriminated against, facing discrimination and prejudice and bigotry, whites did not want them to come downtown. They could not try on dresses. Women couldn't try on shoes, hats. So it was a lot of segregation going on. So blacks saw this area, Old West Baltimore, as the perfect close vicinity to downtown. So as the whites moved westward, moving further west in Baltimore, like this is the 1300 block. When the whites began to move around the 1300 block, 1500 block, the blacks moved into this area. And for me and those of us in the travel and tourism industry, this is Maryland's most historic neighborhood. And what we're doing now, working with our young Mayor Scott, working with all the people who have the funding for the ARP money, we're asking them to reinvest in this neighborhood, because here you have the only monument to Billie Holiday. You have the Avenue Market. You have Thurgood Marshall's home. You have Thurgood Marshall School. You got Booker T. Washington Middle School right there. There used to be Eastern High School where the white girls went. And when the white girls moved up to the Eastern High School over in Northwest Baltimore, the blacks moved into that school. Now it's been called all kinds of academies, etc. But anyway, as we walk through this park, what you'll begin to see, it's a wonderful park. But during the day, people can have lunch, come out and talk. And as you can see again, the historic row houses of Baltimore. This is the very block where little Carol Jackson, the leader of the NAACP, Juanita Jackson Mitchell, her daughter, Clarence Mitchell Jr., her husband, and also Thurgood Marshall, but have their weekly, daily meetings on fighting corruption, fighting discrimination. And so I want to take you over here to this plaque right over here and have you go take a look at this plaque. So this plaque, very important. It's in honor of the great Reverend Dr. Vernon Nathaniel Dobson. He was one of the Goon Squad members. And back during the 50s and 60s, he was a civil rights leader who marched from Selma to Montgomery with Dr. King. He helped desegregate Green Oak Park, founded the Maryland Food Bank, co-founded the Baltimore United in Leadership Bill, which is still going good today, established the Union Baptist Church Child First Head Start Center, Child First Campaign, and served as senior pastor of Union Baptist Church for how many years? 39 years. So come on around here a little more, and you can see when this was dedicated, October 4th, 2013. And so when you talk 44A, you're talking the most historic African American district in the state of Maryland. Because we've been here for over, what, 8 decades? Well, we got up here in 1920. It's almost 10 decades now, almost 100 years. 1915, 2022, over 100 years we've been here. And you can see the names of the people who made things happen. Lily Mae Carroll Jackson, Clarence Mitchell Jr., Juanita Mitchell, and look at Parren Mitchell. They all were right here in Old West Baltimore. Parren becomes the first black from Maryland to go to the United States Congress. That's 1970. Then they dedicated it to Marion Blackwell, preservationist visionary, founder of the Marble Hill Community Association. She did all of this, was dedicated October 4th, 2013.
Beautiful.
So what you got here, Brother Aki, you got a wonderful historic area that because of integration, blacks were able to move uptown. This area began to be a little deserted. Still holding on strong. It is on life support, but it's holding on strong. Look at these wonderful houses across the street. Just think about a Thurgood Marshall walking through here. Clarence Mitchell Jr., Juanita Jackson, Reverend Harvey Johnson, talking Parren Mitchell, even Kweisi Mfume. This is where he grew up at, our parent Congress.
Yes.
Elijah Thomas lives around the corner on McCullough Street.
Yes, sir.
Also, right on McCullough Street, 1522, was the home of Donald Murray. So when you talk 44A, you're talking some real historic facts.
Yes, sir.
Who was Donald Murray? Well, when Thurgood Marshall graduated from Lincoln and wanted to go to law school, the University of Maryland Law School denied him admission. Thurgood got his law degree from Howard. One of the first cases he took was to desegregate the University of Maryland. Who was his first client to do that? Donald Murray. Where did he live? 2 blocks around this corner. So when you say District 44A, you're talking some real history. So when you're in Annapolis at a Lawyer's Mall and you see the Thurgood Marshall statue under justice, equal justice under the law, the 2 little kids represent the 1954 Brown versus Board of Education. The man sitting over there is actually representing Donald Murray. His house is right around the corner in the 1500 block. So again, this is Lou Field BBH Tours. You can find us at bdxlive.biz. Again, bdxlive.biz. And we do these historical tours. So if you want to teach and reach, come to 44A and think about the history that's here. Thank you, Brother Aki.
All right.